Princess Charlotte had entered Windsor, expecting an ordinary family reception. Minutes later, she was crying so hard that Catherine had to guide her away from the room. The cause was not an argument, an announcement, or a cruel remark. It was the small gold locket hanging around Queen Camilla's neck, a piece Charlotte instantly recognized from private photographs of Diana, the grandmother she knew only through stories, memories, and the pain still carried by her father. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Soft conversation had filled St. George's Hall moments earlier. Charles welcomed relatives while William spoke nearby, and Charlotte stayed close to Catherine, unaware that one glance would change the gathering. St. George's Hall is Windsor Castle's grand ceremonial room, used for major royal occasions and family events. Yet that evening, its formal calm offered no protection from something painfully personal. Charlotte looked across the room and froze. Against Camilla's dress rested a gold and sapphire locket she had seen in William's private family album. Her breath caught, her eyes filled, and then the words escaped in a broken whisper, "That belonged to Granny Diana." Catherine wrapped an arm around her daughter and led her toward a room, but the sentence had reached the prince. William turned toward the Queen, and recognition hardened his expression. Diana had worn that piece in photographs, including one showing her holding him close. Camilla touched the necklace instinctively. What had seemed like a beautiful antique suddenly carried the weight of loss, inheritance, and pain that the family had never fully escaped. Catherine knelt beside Charlotte once the door closed and asked how she had known. The girl answered through tears, recalling the conversation in which her father had shown her Diana's photograph and explained why the locket mattered. That first-hand account erased any possibility of simple confusion. Charlotte had not guessed. She had remembered. Charles crossed the hall and asked Camilla where she had obtained it. She replied that palace staff had selected it from a Windsor jewelry case, a secure collection used to store pieces available for royal use. Her answer deepened the mystery. If the locket had belonged personally to Diana, why had it been placed among items Camilla could wear? William refused to confront her before the guests. Instead, he requested the Windsor jewelry inventory, the record identifying every stored piece, and issued one cold instruction. Nobody was to remove the locket from the castle until its history was established. Charlotte's tears had exposed the wound, but understanding its depth meant confronting the four people now trapped around it. To the guests inside Windsor, the locket may have looked like a beautiful royal ornament. To Charlotte, it represented the grandmother she could never meet. To William, it belonged to a childhood violently divided into before and after. To Catherine, it became a test of how fiercely she should protect her daughter. And to Camilla, it carried the terrifying realization that an object chosen without ceremony had reopened the monarchy's most painful family history. Charlotte had grown up knowing Diana through the memories her father guarded most carefully. William spoke about her humor, handwritten notes, and the kindness she showed when no cameras were near. He wanted his daughter to understand that her grandmother had been more than a tragic public figure. Diana had been a loving mother, whose warmth still shaped the family she never lived to see grow. The locket carried that private history. Dark blue enamel surrounded a small sapphire, while a nearly invisible letter C had been engraved on the back. A documented account preserved with Diana's family photographs explained that she connected the letter with courage. It was not merely jewelry. It was a reminder she had once carried close during uncertain moments. Charlotte looked at Catherine and asked the question her mother had feared. Why was Camilla wearing something that belonged to Granny Diana, the Princess of Wales? William's wife and the mother of the next royal generation struggled to answer without forcing decades of adult pain onto a child. She finally explained that precious belongings sometimes became separated from their true stories, but Charlotte could hear the uncertainty beneath her words. William entered, and sat beside his daughter. He confirmed she had recognized the correct piece, keeping his voice calm even as his hands tightened. The prince remembered Diana wearing it during a private breakfast at Kensington Palace, her former London home, shortly before his 13th birthday. That memory made the mistake feel painfully intimate. Camilla removed the necklace across the corridor and placed it carefully on a table. She told Charles that nobody had explained its connection to Diana, or warned her that William's children knew it. The Queen looked shaken rather than defiant, but the King remained silent as he turned the locket over. Charles suddenly noticed the repaired clasp. He remembered Diana losing the piece during a summer at Balmoral, the royal family's private Scottish estate. A royal jeweler, meaning a trusted specialist who repairs pieces for the family, had restored it before returning it directly to her. Princess Anne arrived after William summoned her. The Princess Royal, Charles's sister, studied the clasp, then delivered the words that changed everything. "I warned them. This piece was wrongly recorded." Anne's statement revealed that Charlotte's heartbreak had been preventable, and one private decision had allowed it to happen. 3 weeks before Charlotte cried at Windsor, the locket had already caused a quiet dispute behind closed doors. Princess Anne had seen it lying inside a blue velvet tray during preparations for the reception and immediately questioned its label. Her concern was dismissed as an old inventory problem. Then came the decision everyone would later regret. The piece was approved for Camilla to wear. What appeared to be a clerical oversight was actually the final step in a chain of warnings nobody had taken seriously. Diana's locket had first entered storage inside a sealed box, transferred from Kensington Palace after her death. The palace had been her London home, and its storage rooms still contained belongings connected to her private and official life. Most personal jewelry was separated for William and Harry, yet several smaller pieces remained mixed with gifts, repaired items, and ornaments once borrowed for royal engagements. Neither son knew the locket had been left behind. Years passed, and the box eventually moved to a secure room at Windsor during a major storage reorganization. Its handwritten identification card had faded badly. Staff catalogued the piece as an unassigned family ornament, meaning jewelry with no confirmed personal owner. One damaged label quietly erased Diana from the locket's history and placed it within reach of the wider household. Anne never trusted records that separated precious objects from the people who had carried them. During the reception preparations, the Princess Royal studied the repaired clasp and told the collection supervisor that she remembered Diana wearing it privately. The supervisor promised to investigate, but he left the locket on the approved tray while searching for its missing reference number. Camilla never heard that warning. She later selected the piece from photographs prepared for the reception, believing it had no living personal claim attached. The Queen Consort had not knowingly taken something intended for William or Harry. Yet she still benefited from a decision that ignored Anne, and that painful difference would soon place her face to face with Diana's elder son. The decisive moment came during the Windsor reception rehearsal. Anne questioned the label again, but a senior household official approved the locket for use and ordered the words, "Ownership uncertain," removed from Camilla's briefing card. A briefing card is a short note explaining what a royal will wear and why. He removed the warning simply to prevent an inconvenient last-minute change. One duplicate inventory page preserved the truth. Beside the locket's number, a handwritten note stated, "Possible personal property, DPW. Confirm before display or wear." The official had initialed that documented warning without completing the required check. This was no longer a harmless oversight. Someone had seen the danger and chosen convenience. Anne placed the duplicate record in William's hands, but urged him not to confront the official yet. Camilla had to answer first. Only she could confirm whether another clue had been hidden from her briefing. With Charlotte still crying nearby, The prince carried the forgotten warning toward the private room where the queen was waiting. William did not raise his voice when he entered the room. That made the confrontation more powerful. He closed the door, placed the inventory page beside Diana's locket, and looked directly at Camilla. Catherine remained near Charlotte in the adjoining chamber, while Charles and Anne stood between two histories that had never fully reconciled. For the Prince of Wales, this was not about public reputation. It was about his daughter being wounded by a memory the palace had mishandled. Camilla sat beside the velvet-covered table as Charles remained near the fireplace and Anne guarded the closed door. No aides had been permitted inside. William refused the chair offered to him. As Prince of Wales, the title traditionally given to the heir expected to become the next monarch, he understood the danger of public scandal. But tonight he stood there as a father. William explained exactly why Charlotte had recognized the necklace. Months earlier, his daughter had asked what Diana wore whenever she felt nervous. He had shown her a family photograph and described the word courage engraved into the metal. That private conversation had turned the locket into something Charlotte connected with the grandmother she had never met. Camilla held his gaze as he asked whether she had known. "Had I known, it would never have left the case," she answered. The queen removed any suggestion that she considered the piece her own. Yet sincerity could not erase Charlotte's tears or soften the anger building inside William. Charles tried to contain the confrontation by calling the incident a cataloging failure. The king meant a mistake in the official record used to identify and track royal possessions. William pushed back immediately. Reducing Diana's belongings to numbers, he said, was precisely how the family had allowed her personal history to be mishandled again. Camilla suddenly remembered something missing from her jewelry briefing. Beneath the description had been a narrow strip of torn adhesive. She had assumed an outdated valuation. The estimated financial worth of an object had been covered. Anne stepped closer and studied the briefing. The Princess Royal realized that the adhesive marked the exact place where the ownership warning had been removed. Charles asked who had authorized the change. Anne named the senior household official and supported her revelation with a documented instruction issued months earlier. That record ordered staff to keep jewelry with uncertain ownership out of circulation, meaning it could neither be displayed nor worn until verified. Someone had knowingly broken an existing safeguard. William placed Diana's photograph beside the locket. Camilla studied it, then made an offer nobody expected. She would return the necklace to Charlotte herself, but only if the girl agreed to see her. That apology might ease one wound. Yet first, Charles had to decide whether palace procedure mattered more than his son's moral claim. The locket was small enough to fit inside Charles's palm, yet it forced the king to confront a question larger than any inventory. When royal procedure conflicts with family memory, which one deserves protection? The record placed temporary control with the crown's collection staff. William insisted the piece had always belonged to Diana's sons. Between them sat Camilla, silent and bare-necked, while Charlotte's muffled crying remained audible through the closed door. Charles understood that the collection staff controlled access to royal jewelry and maintained the documents recording where each piece came from. Yet the monarch could suspend an item's use while its ownership was reviewed. That power allowed him to protect the locket immediately, but it did not give him the right to rewrite its past. Beyond the room, Catherine remained with Charlotte, trying to calm a child who feared her grandmother's memory had been erased. Anne opened a documented transfer list prepared after Diana's personal effects left Kensington Palace storage. The Princess Royal found one line describing a small enamel locket, repaired clasp. Its original storage number differed from the Windsor number assigned years later. That single change explained how the necklace had become separated from its history, but it did not explain why nobody corrected the mistake. Charles read the entry twice before setting the page down. The king saw the failure clearly now. The monarchy's own system had transformed a deeply personal possession into an available accessory, placing his granddaughter and his wife inside a confrontation neither had created. Camilla remained silent, but her expression showed that the decision had already wounded her as well. William demanded no punishment for the Queen. Instead, he asked his father to recognize that Diana's belongings could never be treated as neutral royal property. The prince's restraint shifted the dispute away from revenge. He was protecting his mother's dignity, his daughter's trust, and the family history Charlotte had been taught to treasure. Charles ordered staff to compare both inventory numbers with the royal jeweler's repair ledger, a record-listing work completed on important family pieces. The matching repair code confirmed the truth. The Windsor necklace and Diana's recorded locket were the same object. Charlotte had been right from the beginning. Now the darker question was why that connection had vanished. Anne supported a complete review, and Camilla agreed despite knowing it would bring attention to her role at the reception. Charles suspended the responsible official and ordered every item transferred from Diana's former storage to be examined. The Queen accepted the scrutiny without protest, strengthening William's belief that she had not knowingly taken the piece. Charles finally ruled that the locket must return to William as Diana's elder son. Before it left, Camilla asked for 5 private minutes with Charlotte. Catherine hesitated, knowing no signature could repair her daughter's pain. Yet the princess agreed to consider it, because the next decision belonged not to palace procedure, but to the wounded child behind the door. When Camilla returned to the reception without the locket, everyone noticed the empty space above her dress. No announcement had been made, yet the room understood that something serious had happened. Conversations became cautious, and guests avoided looking toward the corridor where Charlotte had disappeared. Camilla crossed the hall alone, knowing that silence would soon become speculation. William remained with his daughter, while Charles prepared to confront the household official, whose decision had ignited the crisis. Charles quietly shortened the remaining reception, without offering an explanation. Catherine cancelled her planned appearance so she could remain beside Charlotte, while William told his staff that his family would leave Windsor through a private exit. That route allowed them to avoid the cameras waiting near the main entrance, where one photograph of the girl's tearful face could turn private pain into public spectacle. Charles summoned the responsible official to the Oak Room and placed 2 records before him. One contained Diana's original ownership warning. The other was Camilla's altered briefing, a short document telling a royal what she will wear and why. The king asked why the warning had disappeared despite Anne's objection during the rehearsal. The official lowered his eyes and admitted the truth during that recorded conversation. He feared that mentioning uncertain ownership would prevent Camilla from wearing the piece and force an embarrassing last-minute change. He had tried to protect the reception from inconvenience. Instead, his decision humiliated the Queen, hurt Charlotte, and exposed the family's careless treatment of Diana's memory. Camilla sat alone after the hall emptied and touched the bare place where the necklace had rested. The Queen now understood how the moment might appear beyond Windsor. Diana's successor, wearing Diana's private locket, while Diana's granddaughter cried in another room. She had not known its history, but the image itself could still feel cruel. Charles removed the official from every jewelry-related duty and ordered the incident formally recorded. The king told Anne he would not bury the failure. Secrecy, he argued, would make Charlotte believe that the adults surrounding her valued appearances more than truth. The Princess Royal agreed, warning that silence had already caused enough damage. Catherine listened as her daughter finally explained what had broken her heart. Charlotte did not blame Camilla for deliberately taking the locket. Her fear was deeper. She believed Diana was slowly being forgotten, and that objects carrying her grandmother's story could be reassigned until their meaning disappeared. William heard those words and struggled with Camilla's request for a private meeting. Catherine believed their daughter deserved a direct answer, not another carefully managed explanation. Charlotte wiped her eyes and said she wanted to hear the truth herself. Away from officials, records, and royal titles, the Queen and the young princess would finally face each other with only Diana's locket between them. Camilla entered the small sitting room without Charles, aides, or prepared words. Charlotte was seated beside a rain-streaked window, with the locket closed inside its velvet box. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Camilla moved a chair closer, but did not sit until the young princess nodded. It was the first moment of the day, untouched by palace procedure. There were no competing royal roles in that room, only a child protecting her grandmother's memory and a woman confronting the pain of wearing it. Catherine and William waited outside, close enough to enter if their daughter called, but too far away to guide her answers. The Princess of Wales resisted the urge to open the door, while the prince stood beside her in tense silence. Their absence removed the institutional buffer, the aides, rules, and formal roles that usually control difficult royal conversations. Camilla began with a plain admission. She had selected the locket because she thought it was beautiful, and nobody had told her it belonged to Diana. The Queen did not blame the dismissed official or ask Charlotte to stop feeling upset. Instead, she accepted that her lack of knowledge could not erase the pain she had caused. Charlotte asked the question that mattered most. Would Camilla have worn it if she had known? No, she answered without hesitation. Some objects might become part of royal history, the monarch explained, while still belonging emotionally to a particular family. This locket belonged with Diana's children, and no palace record could change that truth. Camilla then apologized directly. She understood that seeing the necklace around her neck may have felt as though one woman's place had been substituted for another's. Charlotte's anger softened because the Queen did not dismiss that fear. Yet sadness remained, and neither pretended that 5 honest minutes could erase years of complicated family history. Charlotte lifted the locket from its velvet box and pressed the clasp. It opened. Hidden inside was a tiny photograph of William as a young boy, protected beneath a thin cover. Camilla stared in shock. She had never opened the piece. The image proved it was not ceremonial jewelry, an ornament worn during official royal occasions, but something intensely personal that Diana had kept close to her heart. Camilla closed Charlotte's fingers around the box. She promised that the necklace would never be worn again without William's permission. The girl answered that she did not want to wear it yet. She wanted the locket preserved with the photograph and its full story, so nobody could forget whom it had belonged to. William saw that his daughter was no longer crying when the door opened, and Catherine finally released the breath she had been holding. Charlotte gave her father the box. Camilla then asked Charles to publish the corrected history before false versions spread. The king accepted her request, knowing Windsor's closed doors could no longer contain the image of a tearful princess leaving the reception. By sunrise, the story was no longer confined to Windsor. A photograph of Camilla arriving in the locket appeared beside another, showing her leaving with an empty neckline. A third image captured William guiding Charlotte toward a waiting car, his hand protectively resting behind her shoulder. Together, the pictures told a story before the palace issued a single sentence. Britain saw not a disagreement over jewelry, but a young princess colliding unexpectedly with the unfinished memory of Diana. Windsor responded with an official palace statement, a public message issued on behalf of the royal household. It confirmed that Camilla had worn an item formerly belonging to Diana because of an inventory error. The statement added that the ownership record had been corrected and that the locket was now in William's possession. Charles also confirmed a full review of other items transferred from Diana's former storage. The king accepted institutional responsibility, meaning he acknowledged that the palace system had failed even though he had not selected the necklace. William approved the wording only after it clearly described the piece as his mother's personal property, not a generic royal ornament. Charlotte became the emotional center of the public response. Parents understood the pain of a child learning that trusted adults had mishandled a precious family memory. Older admirers of Diana saw something deeper in the young princess's tears, proof that private grief does not disappear with time. It can pass quietly from one generation to the next. Camilla faced fierce criticism as anger spread across broadcasts and front pages. Yet the corrected timeline changed the debate. The Queen had returned the locket, apologized to Charlotte in a private conversation, and asked Charles to publish the truth. Those confirmed actions prevented the incident from becoming a simple story of deliberate cruelty, though they could not protect her from every accusation. Rain fell outside Windsor's Cambridge Gate as a small crowd gathered near the castle. One woman placed a blue ribbon beside a photograph of Diana wearing the locket. Others added white roses, until the simple tribute became the defining public moment of the day. Evening broadcasters repeatedly returned to that image, describing it as a demand that the palace remember the person behind every royal possession. Morning brought an even sharper judgment. A national newspaper placed the arrival and departure photographs side by side beneath the headline, "The Locket Windsor Forgot." Its editorial argued that royal objects lose their meaning when palaces preserve their financial value but neglect the human stories attached to them. William answered with one final decision. The locket would never return to a general jewelry case. The prince and Charlotte would place it inside a documented family archive, a protected collection preserving Diana's personal belongings and their full histories. Public anger had forced Windsor to explain its failure, but their final act would decide whether the necklace remained a symbol of injury or became something healing. 2 days after the reception, Charlotte returned to Windsor, not for another ceremony, but to finish what her tears had begun. William carried the velvet box, Catherine held the corrected record, and Charles waited inside a private archive room. Camilla stood apart, allowing the decision to belong to Diana's family. The locket had moved through grief, error, confrontation, and public judgment. Now Charlotte would decide how it should be remembered, transforming the moment that broke her heart into an act of protection. Charlotte joined her family around a table holding Diana's photograph, the original transfer entry, the jeweler's repair record, and a corrected description. The archive was a protected collection where important family objects and documents could be preserved securely. Every item now connected the locket directly to its rightful owner. Nothing had been hidden, softened, or left uncertain. William opened the documented history and read it aloud. The record described the dark blue enamel, sapphire center, repaired clasp, engraved word courage, and tiny childhood photograph found inside. The prince paused when his younger face was mentioned, but continued. No future custodian could separate the necklace from Diana's identity again. Charlotte lifted the locket but placed it beside her grandmother's photograph instead of wearing it. She wanted to wear the piece one day, she explained, but only when its memory felt joyful rather than painful. Catherine squeezed her daughter's hand. The princess understood that refusing it now was not rejection. It was an act of emotional honesty. Camilla apologized again, this time before Charles and William. The Queen did not excuse what had happened. The prince accepted her words without pretending the incident had been harmless. His forgiveness remained measured. Intention mattered, but so did the duty to protect whatever grief had made precious. Charles then made the collection review permanent. Every personal object linked to Diana would carry its complete provenance. The documented history showing where an item came from, who owned it, and how it moved between collections. The king declared that the monarchy could no longer preserve financial value while allowing human meaning to disappear. Anne accepted responsibility for supervising the review. The Princess Royal would examine every disputed record, while the suspended official was permanently removed from collection duties. His altered briefing remained preserved as evidence. Yet Anne made certain that one employee did not carry the entire blame for a system that had repeatedly chosen convenience over care. Charlotte's breakdown had not divided the family. It forced them to confront the truth, return Diana's possession, accept responsibility, and protect her story. The locket became proof that remembrance was not rivalry, and that honoring the past did not threaten the present. Charlotte closed the archive drawer. Diana's locket was no longer lost, borrowed, or misunderstood. It was home, and the family finally understood why remembering correctly mattered. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.